Let me speak to your heart right now, not to your job title, not to your education, not to your aspirations, but to your soul. I want you to silence every voice that has tried to define you, every pressure that's been placed on you, every expectation the world has shouted into your ears. I want you to pause just for a moment and ask yourself one honest question. Am I truly living for what God created me for, or am I simply surviving in a system that never cared about my soul in the first place? You see, the reason I need you to listen to this entire message is because what we're about to confront together could change your life, or it could expose how far you've drifted from it. This is not a motivational speech. This is not a self-help guide. This is a wake-up call from heaven. God isn't calling you to find a job. He's calling you to discover your assignment. And there's a world of difference between the two. He isn't asking for your resume. He's demanding your surrender. And if you walk away from this moment, you may miss the one invitation that heaven has placed in front of you, not to make a living, but to finally start living. So I'm asking you with everything in me, don't just hear the words. Let them break you. Let them expose what's empty, challenge what's comfortable, and ignite what's eternal. Because by the time this message ends, you'll either cling more tightly to what the world trained you to pursue, or you'll fall on your face before the God who's calling you out of the system, out of survival, and into a mission that shakes eternity. So stay with me. You need this. Eternity might just depend on it. You were not created to fit into this world system. You were not breathed into existence by the living God so you could spend the next 40 years chasing paychecks, answering to men who don't know your God, and giving your best strength to things that have no eternal value. No, you were made for something far greater. And it grieves me that so many people, so many who profess to know Christ, have never stopped to ask the question, why am I really here? From the very beginning, the enemy has sought to distort your identity, not just by tempting you to sin, but by getting you to settle for something far less than what you were born for. He knows that if he can keep you distracted with survival, if he can keep you worried about how you're going to pay your bills, climb your ladder, build your name, then he doesn't need to tempt you with evil, because you've already forgotten your calling. You've already lost sight of your purpose. You're no longer a threat. Let me ask you something, and don't just answer with your head, answer with your heart. Who told you that you need to find a job to have purpose? Who told you that your life is only valuable when it's productive in the eyes of the world? Because I'll tell you who it wasn't. It wasn't God. When God formed Adam out of the dust, he didn't look at him and say, now go find a paycheck. He gave him a mandate to walk with him, to reflect his image and to steward his creation. And yet today, most people walk around like orphans, grasping for value, striving for acceptance, grinding for significance. But you cannot earn your purpose. You were born with it. This world will tell you that purpose comes from what you do, but God says purpose flows from who you are in him. You see, the first thing God ever gave man wasn't a job, it was identity. He said, let us make man in our image. He stamped his nature into your soul, and until you understand that, you will spend your life chasing something you already had in Christ. You'll be like a man digging holes in the desert looking for water when the living water has already been poured out for you. Let me tell you something. This world will never say your value doesn't increase when you're employed, and it doesn't decrease when you're not. Your worth is not tied to your productivity, it's tied to the cross. The cross didn't redeem employees, it redeemed sons and daughters. You are not here to survive in a broken system. You are here to walk in the power of the Spirit, to tear down the works of darkness and to glorify the King. But how can you do that if you're too busy looking for your next opportunity, your next connection, your next career move? How can you seek first the kingdom if your heart is consumed with seeking financial stability? How can you truly say, Lord, here I am, send me, when your only concern is, Lord, where can I get hired? You see, the question isn't whether or not you should work. The question is, whose work are you doing? Are you working for the glory of God, or are you working because you fear lack? Are you moving with divine assignment, or are you just surviving because the world told you that? responsible people do. The moment you forget that God is your source, you become a slave to whoever signs your paycheck. And I am not speaking against labor. I am speaking against aimless labor. Work that has no kingdom direction. Movement that's disconnected from the voice of God. Busyness that gives the illusion of purpose, but at the end of the day, it leaves your spirit dry and your soul aching for something more. When you're truly born again, the Spirit of God within you cries out for more than just a 9-to-5 life. There is a groaning in you, a restlessness that won't be satisfied by promotions or titles. It's not because you're ungrateful. It's because you were made for more. You were made to hear God's voice, to walk by faith, to lay down your life in love, and to walk in power. You were made to turn the world upside down if you're busy trying to fit in with it. You can't fulfill your kingdom assignment while pursuing the world's definition of success. At some point you must choose. Will I live for man's approval or for God's purpose? Will I chase comfort or will I surrender to the call? This world will applaud your resume but ignore your calling. They will reward your performance but mock your convictions. You may be praised for your skills and fired for your faith. That's why you need to decide. Now, am I here to build my life or am I here to lose my life for the sake of Christ? Because the ones who change the world are not the ones with the best jobs. They're the ones who heard the voice of God and said yes. They're the ones who laid down their own plans and embraced a holy assignment. They're the ones who stopped asking, where can I be successful, and started asking, where can I be faithful? You see, God didn't say, go look for a job. He said, follow me. And sometimes that means you'll work with your hands. Sometimes that means you'll preach in the street. Sometimes it'll mean long days and sleepless nights. But it will never mean you settle for less than the call of God on your life. You are not an employee of this world. You are an ambassador of another kingdom. So don't you dare believe the lie that you need to look for a job to be useful. Don't you dare trade your calling for a career. Don't you spend one more day trying to find your worth in what you do when it's already been secured in who you are. You weren't born to find a job. You were born to answer the call. Let me tell you something that might shake the very core of your thinking. God is not looking for employees. He's not building a corporation. He's not managing a business where he hires people to clock in, do a shift of religious work, and then go home. God is not interested in job applications. He's interested in complete surrender. He's raising up sons and daughters who belong to him entirely. He is not inviting you to join a workforce. He is calling you into a kingdom. And that's why I say to you today, God said, don't look for a job. Now hear me clearly. I'm not talking about laziness. I'm not talking about neglecting responsibilities or avoiding labor. The Bible honors work. What I'm talking about is this mindset, this cultural stronghold, this lie that has crept into the church and poisoned our thinking, that your calling is your career, that your value is in your vocation, and that your purpose is to find a job and survive. That's not the gospel. That's not what you were created for. God did not create you to fit into the world's system. He created you to stand apart from it. And yet what do we see today? Young men and women growing up in the church, passionate for Jesus, sensitive to his spirit, but the moment they reach adulthood, the pressure begins. Get a degree, find a job, settle down, make money, be responsible. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, that fire begins to die. That sensitivity to the call of God begins to fade, not because they stopped loving God, but because they started listening to the world. Let me ask you, who told you to go after that career? Who told you that was the path? Did God say it? Did you hear his voice? Or did you just follow what everyone else was doing because it seemed safe, because it seemed smart, because it seemed like the only way to survive? If the people of Israel had waited until it was reasonable to leave Egypt, they would have died in slavery. If Peter had waited until it was safe to step out of the boat, he would have never walked on water. If Paul had waited until he had a clear 5-year financial plan, we wouldn't have half the New Testament. And yet today we are paralyzed by caution. We've traded faith for fear, and we've justified it by calling it wisdom. But listen to me, the voice of God does not always sound wise to the world. In fact, it often sounds foolish. But the foolishness of God is wiser than the wisdom of men. So don't be surprised if what he's calling you to doesn't fit the mold. Don't be surprised if his will for your life doesn't include a job description, a retirement plan, or a promotion ladder. He may be calling you to go, to preach, to serve, to build, to sacrifice, and none of it may look professional. And that terrifies us, doesn't it? Because deep down, we want control. We want to know what's next. We want guarantees. But following Jesus doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with a cross. It comes with a cost. It comes with a call that says, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. I've seen it too many times. God stirs a young person's heart for ministry, missions, evangelism, or full-time service. There's a fire there, a burden that can't be explained. But then the questions start coming. How are you going to make a living? What about your future? What if it doesn't work out? And slowly that burden gets buried under bills and budgets and business plans. And I want to weep when I see, because it's not just a lost opportunity. It's a lost generation. A generation that was meant to turn the world upside down, now shackled by the same fears the world lives by. A generation that was meant to live by faith, now chasing comfort. A generation that was supposed to go wherever he sent them, now asking, but what will the salary be? Let me say it again. God is not looking for workers. He's looking for servants. People who will lay down their lives, who will trust him completely, who will obey even when it makes no sense. People who will leave everything behind if he asks, because they've already counted the cost. I'm not saying God won't ever lead you into a job. He might. He can use anything. But the issue isn't whether you work a job or not. The issue is, did he send you there or did fear send you there? Are you where you are because God called you or because the world expected it? Are you doing what you're doing because you're obeying the voice of the Spirit or because you're running from the discomfort of faith? God didn't save you so you could get by. He saved you to make you holy. He saved you to set you apart. He saved you so you could represent his kingdom on this earth. That doesn't happen by blending in. That doesn't happen by following the crowd. That doesn't happen by submitting to the system that crucified your Lord. You have one life, one, and it will pass like the wind. And when you stand before him, he's not going to ask you how stable your income was. He's going to ask you if you followed him. He's going to ask you if you laid down your life. He's going to ask you if you trusted him when everything around you told you not to. So I urge you, don't waste your life chasing a job. Don't trade your calling for a career. Don't bury the gift he gave you just to fit in. The world does not need more employees. The world needs burning hearts, surrendered lives, servants who fear nothing but God. Obey him, follow him, trust him, and never look back.